After this video, the student will be able to identify when to use the sine rule. Okay, the sine rule is simply A over sine A, which is equals to B over sine B, which is equals to C over sine C. Or you, as how we derived it in the previous video, sine A over A is equals to sine B over B, which is equals to sine C over C. We have that. So when do we use the sine rule? We use the sine rule. So let me put it. So our objective for this video is to identify the conditions when to use the sine rule, or some people may call it sine law. So then, identify the conditions when to use the sine rule. The sine rule will be used when you are working with two parts of this whole equation. So let's consider that. For you to use the sine rule here, this part of the equation, you need to know three parts to it, which can be A, B, sine A, and not sine B, which we will be solving, or you may know A, sine B, and look for B. So in other words, you need to know three parts of the equation to solve for the other side. However, if you have A, B, and sine C, that will not help, because notice we do not have one more component of the values that we know. So they need to work in pairs. So at least one set needs to be a pair, and then the other side may be missing. Okay, so let's also go with an example of the sine rule. So I have a triangle, and this could just a random triangle. We're going to call this triangle A, B, C. Consider this to be 70 degrees, consider this to be 12, and consider this to be um let me give that a value. Say for example, let's work with some values that will work. Say 10 and 11. Okay, and yeah, 70, it's okay. So now, how do you work this out? Well, note what do you have? You have side, side, angle. So you put on the side, 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 angle, and at least the angle that you know is opposite to one of the sides. So therefore you recall by sine rule, and you have now side, side, and an angle, and one of the angle is opposite to one of the sides. So therefore sine rule applies perfectly. So we proceed in solving. So we have here this to be this side. We're going to put here letter B in this case, okay, and then we're going to put C. So we put here C over sine C equals B over sine B. Ensure to write the equation first of all, so that you know where you will be substituting. The next step now is for us to substitute into the equation, or we can rearrange the equation so we can solve now for angle C. So we cross multiply, and we end up with C equals B sine C. So now we're looking for, okay, we're looking for sine C, and we end up with sine B at the bottom. Then cross multiply the sine B, we end up with C sine B equals B sine C. So now we divide both sides by the B, and we end up with sine C equals C is sin B over length B. And so we can solve for C now. Notice what we did. side angle, and at least the angle is opposite to one of the sides, so therefore sine rule can apply. All right, let me do a substitution on this side. So we have now that sin of C is equals to length C, which is equals to 10, and the sin of B, which is equals to 70 degrees, over length B, which is 11. Since you are using a scientific calculator, the way you're going to do this is as follows. Turn on your calculator and you type in 10 times open bracket sin, notice that the sin is now open, 70 close bracket divided by 11, and that gives us a value of 0.854266081. So this can be written as sin C equals to 0.854266018. You may decide to round it off here to a certain amount of decimal places, or you could have done your operation with one equation. So this is not our solution yet. We need the angle C. So you're going to say now that C is equals to arc sin 0.854266018. You may keep that amount of decimal places, giving us C is equals, so you want the sin, the inverse sin, so we need to activate the top sin here. Let me zoom in there so you can see that sin, this top sin here. So what you are going to press is you're going to press the shift. For some of your calculators do not have the word shift or button shift, but it has second function or inverse. My one has shift, so I press shift and then I press sin, and notice what appears, sin to a -1, and so I punch in the value here, which is 0.854266018, which gives me 58.67875,983. Since we are working with lone whole numbers and they did not tell you to specify to any specific decimal place or significant figures, my advice would be to go one decimal place or 1 unit below what you are working with. All of them whole numbers, so my angle is going to be 58.7 degrees. So I put here 58.7 degrees, which is one decimal place, or in this case it is three significant figures. Either one of them, it is still correct. How did I get 58.7? Look at the 0.6. The value after the 6 is more than 5, therefore I must add 1 to the 6, and that is how it became 7. Okay, now for the one that want to operate your calculator with one operation, you could have said this way. You would then put, let me zoom out back again, put shift sin here. Okay, you put open bracket now, and then you type in this whole operation, which is then 10 times open bracket sin 70 close bracket divided by 11 close bracket, and we should end up with the same answer. Okay, so that is how you work with sin. So this is finding one of the side, or I mean the angle given two sides, and then one of the angle which is opposite to one of its sides. That is the application of the sin rule. Okay, so let's go to another example. And my other example is as follows. You have a triangle and it's not drawn to scale. You have this x, y, z. 50 degrees, 60 degrees. And let's say this side here to be 15. Let me see, which one can I give you? Can I give you this one here? Should I give you this one? Yes, no. Okay, let's go with this one here. This to be 15, not 20, and just 20 units for the meantime. It could be 20 meters, centimeter. The point is that it is just a length. So how do I work this out? Well, according to the sine rule, it says that you need to know two sides and one of the angles to find the other angle, or two angles on one side to find the other side. Well, based on this, we have two angles on each side, so we would not, in this case, we do not have any side that has opposite angle known, but or two sides with an opposite angle known. We only have a side which has an unknown angle. We know two angles, but they don't have opposite sides. So can we use the sine rule? Yes. How is that? Because we could solve for this angle, and then we would definitely have an angle with its opposite side. So let's do that. We know that the total angle in a triangle is equals to 180 degrees. We know that for a fact. Okay, so therefore we can say that this angle here, x plus y plus z, should give us 180 degrees. So angle x is equals to 180 take away angle y, which is 50, plus angle z, which is equals to 60. That now gives me 180 take away and 110 degrees, which gives me that x is equals to 70 degrees. That is the size of this angle. So now putting the 70 here, we now know an angle and a side. We could solve any of the other two sides. Let's solve for this side then. This is the side that we wanted. Alright, side y. So now we will apply sine rule. So now we see now this side here, which is 20 over the sine 70, must equal the y over the sine 50. So we rearrange the equation to get y by itself. When we do that, we end up with 20 sine 50 over sine 70 equals y. So remember the previous example, I just did one punching into our equation. So we're going to be doing this now. So we now have 20 times sine 50 divided by 70. So we put that, we put 20 times sine 50. Okay, and here, let me just correct this up, 20 times open bracket sine 50 divided by sine sine 70, and that's what that has. Okay, 20 times sine 50 divided by sine 70, and we press equal, and that gives us our value, which is 16.3. Because we're working with whole numbers, my advice is to go to one decimal point, since they didn't say which is the units, and you put one decimal place, or in this case it is 3 significant figures. That is how you apply the sine rule. So at times you may be given a side and two angles, but none of the angles is opposite to the side given. So you have to use the rule or the law or the concept that you know that a total angle in a triangle is equals to 180, and solve for that angle so that you have a set of pairs. And then you may work like this one here. You already have opposite side with an angle, and you could find the other angle. Okay, that is how you use the sine rule.